Let me adjust this closer there. Been a while since the last live stream. Wanted to talk about the upcoming 2026 governor's race. Some new folks in the race. First Democrat, Tom Begich, Crooked Adam Crum, and I'm going to talk about why I call him Crooked Adam Crum here in a second. He had an event last week in the Valley. Low rent, Trump. There was a citation and some single-engine planes and some hangar. I don't know what this thing is with hangars and events and Republicans especially, but that's a thing. Before I start the live stream, I want to thank John Quick for being a sponsor. John Quick's down in the Kenai. He supports independent journalism, and I really want to just thank John Quick for being a sponsor of the live stream. It's really good to have him supporting this. It's there's some equipment involved. Obviously, there's some cost to doing these things, so I really want to thank John Quick for being a sponsor and supporting independent journalism. As you're all aware, last week, Tom Begich, Democrat, filed the first Democrat to be in the governor's race. He served in the state Senate for 6 years. He was the minority leader for, I think it was 4 years. His brother is Mark Begich. His nephew is Nick Begich, the kind of black sheep of the family Republican, who's a representative from Alaska who won the election last year, who beat Mary Peltola. And then his dad served in the House in the 70s. He was kind of famously in a plane that disappeared in the Southeast with Hale Boggs, who was also a congressman. So Tom's the first Democrat in the race, and it's kind of weird how he got in because there's been speculation that Tom Begich has wanted to run for governor for a long time. He's one of these guys who's forever wanted to be governor. And he was not going to get in the race because Mary Peltola, who was the representative for 2 years, who's the kind of the most popular, most known Democrat in Alaska right now, who's got a ton of name ID. She beat the ticket by a lot. She did way better than Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in Alaska. Nick Begich beat her, but she did way better than the ticket did, the top of the ticket. So Tom gets in the race, and Mary Peltola doesn't know what she's going to do. She's working at Holland and Hart, making a lot of money. It's a lobbying and law firm. She's making, I've heard $400,000 salary base, but then there's bonuses for clients she's brought in and other things. So who knows how much money she's making, but she's making a lot of money, a lot more than she was making as representative and a lot more than she's probably made in her life and in previous jobs. So Mary has the advantage if she does run for governor or U.S. Senate against Dan Sullivan. She's being pressured by National Democrats, Chuck Schumer. They've been spending millions of dollars up here against Dan Sullivan for his vote on this big, beautiful bill and for the rescission bill. They've been spending all this money saying Dan Sullivan's evil, Dan hates kids, Dan hates Medicare, blah, 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 all this stuff. So what they don't want, what Schumer and the National Democrats don't want is for Sullivan to skate. They don't want him to kind of have no race or have a joke opponent, because if he has a real opponent, they're going to have to raise millions of dollars, and they're going to have to actually campaign. Whereas if he doesn't have a real opponent, that money could be spent elsewhere. And they're trying to get the Democrats are trying to get every seat, They're looking at, there's right now it's 53, 47. So they need to pick up 4 seats, because even if they get 3 and it's 50-50, J.D. Vance will be the tiebreaker. So they have to flip 4 seats. Very difficult. Only a third of the Senate's up every 2 years. So they even if they don't feel like they can beat Dan Sullivan, they definitely want him to have a race. So it's a situation of resources. So does Mary run against Sullivan, or does Mary run against governor, or run against Sullivan, run for governor? Now, she has this job at Holland and Hart. She's making a lot of money. Mary, because she's so well known, she could file in April or May. The filing deadline's June 1st, and probably be okay. There's really not a big advantage for her to get in early because she's so well known anyways. Tom Begich filed, and he said, well, if she runs, I'll get out. If she runs for governor, I'll get out, which is like a weird thing to say. It's just kind of bizarre. If you're going to run, you should run. You shouldn't run and then say, I'm not going to run if this person gets in. It's very, very strange. But I think Tom Begich probably got tired of waiting, and Mary doesn't want to make up her mind. Does she run for governor? Does she run for U.S. Senate? Does she just run for nothing and keep this very high-paying job at Holland and Hart? That's the thing she's probably deciding, or that's weighing on her. So he's the first Democrat in the race. There's 9 Republicans in the race. Last week, Adam Crum, who I call Crooked Adam Crum, and I want to explain why I call Adam Crum Crooked Adam Crum. 3 years ago, when he took the job, 2.5 years ago as commissioner, my friend Brian Fector was deputy commissioner for a long time. Now Brian was overseeing a situation with this guy John Hendricks, who has fury, who's a hustler, who's always looking for a dollar, who's always trying to get free money from the state or from anybody, who's just kind of a bad actor. He has this kitchen lights unit and cooking lit for gas. He produces very little gas. and Hilcorp produces like 95% of the gas. But he has a lot of leases, and he's always looking for. He's got bills in it. He had Kathy Giesel introduce a bill a couple years ago to basically drastically recalculate how property taxes are calculated in Alaska. He tried to get this property tax. He bought this field 7 or 8 years ago. This Kitchen Lights field from bankruptcy. These previous guys went bankrupt, and he was actually Bill Walker's oil and gas advisor. That's how he knew about the deal, and he left the job. And you're supposed to wait like a year or two to be able to go and act on things when you're in that position. But he got it. He borrowed some money from Ada, I think $7.5 million, and then he got it for cheap. He got it for like, not pennies, but probably 5 or 6 times less than what the thing was valued at. I think he paid $15 million. I think it's valued at like $85 million. And then later he was trying to say he doesn't want to pay the property taxes. It was like $1.6 million a year in property taxes, half which goes to the state, half which goes to the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Now, Lucinda Mahoney was the previous revenue commissioner. Brian Fector was deputy commissioner. Now, Lucinda's husband, Steve Mahoney, is an oil and gas tax attorney. Guess who one of his clients is? Fury, John Hendricks. So Lucinda Mahoney could not get involved in these issues because she had a conflict, because her husband's this guy's tax attorney. So Brian, as deputy revenue commissioner, who was in the position to make the decision, said, no, this is against the law. It's not right. We're not going to do this. The State Assessment Review Board, called the SAR Board, twice ruled against Hendricks unanimously. Brian was leaned on by people to Hendricks gave a lot of money to Dunleavy, I think $20,000. He bought money. He bought a lunch with Dunleavy at the Kenai River Classic for I think like $5 or $10,000, and he was trying to use his political connections and power to basically force Brian to give him a huge tax deduction from like $1.6 million a year to like 100. It was like 90%, 95% reduction. He went to court. He actually lost in court as well. As soon as Crum takes over, like almost immediately, Brian's authorities are taken away. Authority over tax taken away quietly. No one really tells him, and he's pushed out. The guy who's like standing up for the state, who's not giving away money to these people who are just trying to use their connections to get tax discounts. He wouldn't do that. So Brian gets pushed out. Adam brings in this guy Fadil Lamani, who was deputy commissioner, and I didn't know Fadil. I've gotten to know Fadil over the years, but then Fadil gets pushed out. Crum had to fire Fadil a few months ago when there was a dispute about this Glenfarne issue and the gas line and who was going to build it and who was going to finance it. And Crum and Fadil had some different ideas, and they were out there meeting with this I-Squared company and these financiers in New York. Well, it turns out that Crum was in Hawaii. I found this out later because I got some requests in about his leave slips, and he was in Hawaii, didn't tell anybody in the state he was in Hawaii. He was with his family. He was on a vacation, didn't put in for leave until later. Turns out his leave was denied by the deputy chief of staff for the governor, Rachel Bilesma, because he never told anybody what he was doing. So he had to fire Fadil over the phone from Hawaii because no one knew. He had to basically come clean and say, I'm in Hawaii, I'm not in Alaska. So there's a whole bunch of other things. When he was on the Permanent Fund Board, he was, as a commissioner of revenue, he was one of the members of the Permanent Fund Board. He worshipped this Ellie Rubenstein, who I did a story on last year, who was trying to set up her dad with meetings with Permanent Fund people. She was trying to get the fund to invest with some of her associates, business associates. And he's one of these guys who was loved Ellie Rubenstein, who wanted to empower Ellie Rubenstein, probably because her dad's David Rubenstein, he's a billionaire, and he thought he was going to maybe get something out of the deal. So there's a whole bunch of things there with this guy, Adam Crum. So he had this event last week. That's why I call him Crooked Crum. So he had this event last week. Pull this up here. And as you can see, it was at a hangar, and there's a King Air back here and a couple single engine. Is it a Husky? I'm not sure what that is. It might be a Husky. Anyways, it's kind of, I don't know, these Republicans are big in hangars and shit. It's like a low rent Donald Trump. He can't get the big jet, so he can get the next best thing. And then he has this bizarre sign, bold leader, no excuses, just results. Now, I wonder if he had any excuses for not cooperating with the legislative auditor. This predates him as commissioner. From 2020 it started, but the Department of Revenue would not cooperate with the legislative auditor for 5 years. And then when he was commissioner, he wouldn't turn over any documents about tax settlements and oil tax matters, and he would really not communicate with the legislature. He wouldn't explain himself. Crum's the kind of guy where if you put him in a situation where he's talking to people. He had an event last weekend at the chili cook-off, the Republican women in the Valley, like a chili cook-off, and he gets up there and, when he had his event and his kickoff event last week, he had like a teleprompter. Guy literally had a teleprompter. It's bizarre. It's a teleprompter to launch his campaign. But he was at this cook-off thing and he got up there off the cuff and he was talking about like credit rating increases and rare earth and molybdenum and no aluminum. I mean, it's bizarre. So he's the kind of guy who like needs his notes. He has to be able to like read notes to talk to people because he's not like good at going off the cuff. So he's just, I don't know, he's got a lot of people I think he's been cozying up to over the years when he's been going to New York and D.C. He was in D.C. for the inauguration on state money, I'm sure. He was in Milwaukee for the RNC convention. He was in Florida. He was traveling all over the place. I mean, he was going all over the country meeting with these folks. So they probably started, thinking, oh, maybe you can be governor, you're commissioner or whatever. Well, if we can get in there and get some deals done, or if we can have some access to, maybe investments or the state, I'm sure they were like jerking him off and convincing him he was like the smartest guy ever. So he's in the race. He left the job last month as commissioner, and then he gets in, and then he had to wait to do his launch. There's another guy who filed. His name is Bruce Walden. He ran in 2022. No money. He got like less than 1%. But like right now, we have Nancy Dahlstrom, who's lieutenant governor, who has not really campaigned at all that I've seen. She ran for the U.S. House last year against Nick Begich. Didn't really campaign much. Trump endorsed her. The Trump people, some PAC, put like $1 million into some campaign last minute. Nancy Dahlstrom's endorsed by Trump. Begich still beat her. She was going to stay in the race because it was ranked choice, but then she got out. So I haven't seen a ton from Nancy Dahlstrom. Click Bishop's in the race, former state senator. He's having an event, I think it's tomorrow or Thursday in Anchorage with a bunch of the kind of usual suspects, Jim Jansen, these very wealthy kind of business guys, the kind of the top elite people, leaders, business leaders, or who else was on there? There was a list, I think, let me pull that thing up here. I think I have that right here. Let me pull up some of the names that are on Click Bishop's fundraiser. I should have put that on Twitter so I could have read it here. So it looks like we have, here it is. Jim Jansen, Christina Woolston, oh God. Let's see here. John Ellsworth, big construction guy. Joe Balash from Santos. Doug Bloomer, Diane Bloomer, lobbyist husband. Pam Birch, wife of the late Chris Birch. Joey Merrick, the fucking laborers guy, who's Kelly Merrick, his wife's in the legislature. Kevin Meyer, Cora Campbell, former commissioner. Who else here? Ed Gore, Delta Constructors. Dave Cruz, Joe Usabelli, a lot of business people. So he's having a fundraiser at, where's that thing at? That's at the Petroleum Club, of course. It's today, Tuesday, August today, 5 to 7. It's going on right now. So he's in the race. He hasn't really done much. He filed pretty early. He, I like Click, but he was in the legislature, I think 12 years, voted to drain all the savings accounts to pay off all the big deficits. Nothing really ever changed. He had all these big plans for energy and doing all this energy reform stuff. None of that ever happened. So he's a moderate guy from Fairbanks. He's former labor commissioner, so he's going to have labor support probably. A lot of this is going to come down to who these folks pick for the running mate, because that could be really good, or the running mate's not really going to help you a ton, but it could hurt you. You want to pick somebody. So that's going to be a thing with some of these folks have to decide who the running mate's going to be by June 1st. So he's in the race. He's having a fundraiser tonight in Anchorage. Shelley Hughes, state senator, got in the race recently. She's from Palmer. She's conservative. I like Shelley, but again, somebody else who's been in the legislature a long time who's not really sure what kind of record there is there. Voted to drain all the savings accounts when she was in the majority for years when Walker was governor, and there was just no plan to figure out our financial situation. We had like $18 billion in savings. Now it's like $3 billion. Matsu Borough Mayor Edna DeVries, who's a nice lady. I love the Matsu Borough. I have property out there. A friend and I bought. Matsu Borough is run pretty well. Edna, don't want to be ageist here, but I think she's like 84. So she's totally with it. I've seen her speak. She's with it, but 84, should have win 85. She'd be done. She'd be like 90. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting. We have obviously Crooked Adam Crum. Bernadette Wilson, who I know Bernadette. She's cool. I've known her for a long time. Used to be on the radio. She's promoting the dividend delusion, which I don't even know. I mean, to pay a full dividend this year would be like almost half of our revenue. It'd be $2.5 billion. So anybody who's saying that is either lying to you or just doesn't know what's going on, because there's no way we can do that. It's not realistic. The people who are saying that are just totally out there. and I don't think they should be trusted or taken seriously at all. James Parkin, I don't know him. He's from Angoon. He was a teacher. Now I think he works at a mine. Very, very well-known teacher in Angoon, Republican guy, but he's kind of just probably somebody who's not going to have a ton of money. Dr. Matt Halala, he's a podiatrist. He's got money. This guy's very wealthy. He's into the surgery centers. He's got, like, I think Ashley Reed, the lobbyist, and then Art Hackney, the consultant, kind of on his side or backing him. He has got this big RV I saw a picture of with a big, kind of like an Elise Galvin throwback when she ran for Congress against Don Young. So he's got a lot of money, but no one's heard of the guy. I mean, no one's heard of most of these people, actually. If you do, like, people watching this show probably have heard of most of these folks because you're full of politics, but you do like an actual, big poll of 500 or 1,000 voters, and most of these people are going to have little to no name ID at all. And then there's this Bruce Walden guy who ran in 2022. So right now there's is it 9 Republicans in the race, 1 Democrat? There's going to be 10 or 15 more people by the end of some of them are going to be joke candidates, not going to raise any money. Some of them are going to be serious. Some of them are going to get out in the fall to the early summer when they realize they have no chance, and they're going to try to be somebody's running mate, or they're going to try to become a commissioner. They're going to look at the favorite and say, oh, look, make me commissioner, or make me head of aid, or make some political deal for my support. That's going to happen. But there's going to be a lot more folks in the race. It's an open seat. It's the open primary, top 4 advance. It's ranked choice. That's going to be on the ballot as a repealer next year. I've heard a lot of the money supporting keeping the ranked choice voting in the open primary is drying up. The group this year doing the repeal is Judy Eldridge, Republican Women's Club, longtime person, and then Bethany Markham. They're a lot more organized. The other guy, what the hell is that guy's name? Lunatic. Spacing his name. I can't even remember his name. I'll think of it in a second. But he was trying to do it last time, and just totally crazy guy, no money. They did a bunch of shady things. This guy Art Mathias was one of his. What's that guy's name? It's like blanking. I'll think of it in a second. But this time they're organized. And if the other side doesn't, last time the other side put in $15 million. So if they don't put in up that much money, and it barely passed in 2020, 2022, it barely passed in 2020, and then it was barely not repealed in 2024, like a percent. So that, I think people are looking at this as like a situation where if it gets repealed, it's going to go back to the primary system, and it's going to change, and a governor's race every 4 years. So there's going to be a lot of folks in this race. Now, the other one who's going to get in very soon is Treg Taylor, who's very busy this week. He has Ken Paxton and Tom, the AG from Texas, and Chris Kobach, the AG from Kansas. They're having an event tomorrow, I think tomorrow or Thursday, at the Alaska Oil and Gas Association Conference, which, by the way, I'll be at the AOGA conference. I'll have a booth. The Alaska Political Report will have a booth at the AOGA conference. So if you're there, come say hi. If you don't get the Alaska Political Report, talk to me. I'll let you know what it is and how much it is. And it's a great resource for kind of state politics, state budget, everything happening in the state. We cover more so than all the other publications. So very in-depth reporting on the state budget and state politics, called the Alaska Political Report. So he's doing that at the conference. Then he has some Thursday night, the Republican Women's Club is hosting an event with him and these AGs. And then Friday, I just found out he's got some Alaska Action Network or some nonprofit. I don't know what they're doing, but they're having some event in Girdwood and Kenai for fishing, and it's like $2,500 to go. And the sponsors range from like 10,000 to 100,000. And it's these like attorneys general from different states that are going to be there. So his last day is Friday. He's been running for governor for like 6 months, like behind the scenes, which honestly, it's like not great. He's attorney general. He's like top law enforcement. If you want to run for governor, run for governor. Same thing with Crooked Crum. He was revenue commissioner. These guys have a lot of power as revenue commissioner and attorney general over tax settlements, over tax matters, over how companies are treated. I mean, there's all kinds of potential preferential treatment here. There's ripe for corruption, ripe for pay for play. So it'll be very interesting to see, especially Crooked Adam Crumb's financial campaign disclosure, and the first one will be in February, to see how much money he's gotten from like the oil industry that he oversaw as revenue commissioner. So Treg's last day is Friday. He's probably going to announce mid-September. Honestly, his wife Jody Taylor is like kind of like calling the shots. She's the really active political one. Hell, if Jody ran, maybe I might support Jody. I mean, I like Jody a lot, but she's the one who's kind of calling the shots. But Treg's the face of the operation, so he's going to get in. I've heard rumors that they're willing to put up $1 million of their own money. I mean, I don't know where they get their money, but they have money. They bought the Inlet Inn down there, the Inlet Tower hotel kind of condo deal. They bought that a couple years ago, so they're running that. So that's going to be 10 And then, you got Mark Begich. So there's a lot. This is still September. So we still have, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. We still have 9 months of open season for who's going to run for governor. And the filing deadline is June 1st. So it could be, who knows how many more people are going to get in this race. I mean, when Don Young died, famously that the special election had like 48 people, right? This is the first time we've had an open governor's seat since, I think, 2002, since Tony Knowles, because he was a 2-term governor. 2002 was an open seat, right? So that was 24 years ago? 2004, so Murkowski ran and won in 2002, and then Frank Murkowski was governor in 2006, but he lost the primary badly. Palin won in 2006, and then she resigned 2 years later, so Sean Parnell became governor. So in 2010, he was the incumbent. He won. 2014, he was also the incumbent, but he lost to Bill Walker. 2018, Bill Walker was the incumbent, but he lost to Mike Dunleavy. 2022, Mike Dunleavy won re-election, the first governor to win re-election since Tony Knowles in 1998, the first Republican governor to win re-election since Jay Hammond in 1978. So basically, this is the first time in 24 years we've had an open government where there's no incumbent. So it doesn't matter how unpopular the incumbent is. Frank Murkowski was very unpopular, but he was still the incumbent. Even though he lost the race, there was still a big race there. And obviously the incumbent has many advantages normally. Even if they lose, I mean, they're still the incumbent. So this is a non-incumbent. There's no incumbent. So the Republicans are going crazy. They're already kind of eating their own. They're great at that. They're great at eating their own. The question is, how many of these Republicans go after each other and then also who might expect to get a position, maybe running mate, or maybe something in the campaign, maybe commissioner. So they have to be careful if they're going to attack each other, and then later they realize, wow, I have no chance, I'm getting no traction, but I still want to be a player in this thing. You got to be careful, because if you go after somebody too much, maybe they don't want to deal with you later. So I predict by spring, by March, April, May, you'll start to see some folks who just realize they have no shot. They aren't raising money. They aren't getting support. They're going to try to make deals, or they might just decide this isn't worth it. I'm not going to embarrass myself. But I think there's going to be 20 or 25 people in the race, in the primary. No, maybe half or more of them are just kind of not serious people. They're on the ballot. But if they suck up 0.5% or 1%, 10 or 15, I mean, it all of a sudden becomes a kind of race to get 15, 20% of the vote to advance to the top 4. And then we saw what happened, last time in some of these races with Don Young. After the special election, people start dropping out, and then the 4th and 5th, or the 5th and 6th, 7th place finishers get bumped up. If folks drop out, if they get pressured to drop out, they got Nancy Dalston to drop out. Nick Begich did last time because the Republicans didn't want to repeat the same thing with Palin and Begich in 2022. So Dalston wasn't going to get out, but then she got leaned on so hard by Republicans to get out, she withdrew. And then somebody else, not even sure who it was, somebody else came up. I think it was that guy who was like a felon. He was in jail, and he was threatened to kill a judge or something. He was on I forget the guy's name. Phil Izon was the guy I was talking about before. Izon. He was the ranked choice repeal guy who's an absolute lunatic, just a crazy person. He was the guy who was trying to do the repealing of ranked choice voting last time. So that's kind of the summary. It's going to be a lot to cover here in the next 9 months for the open kind of season of who files, and then from there, from June 1st to next August, that's the primary, and then from August to November, that's the general, and it's going to be a lot. Dan Sullivan's also up. We talked about Mary Peltola maybe running against him. He's gonna have some opponent. Mary's the kind of, for him, the nightmare opponent, because he's still gonna beat her almost certainly, but that's gonna be like a real race with real resources. If it's some other random Democrat who's like, we saw that with Murkowski. We saw that what was her name? I don't even know her name. I'll think of it in a second, but it was a Democrat who kind of was like on the ballot, who didn't really have any money. That was just kind of like a pro forma. Hey, we need a name. So if Sullivan gets one of those, it'll just be cruise control for him. He's got, I think, like $4 million raised right now, like in the bank, cash on hand. So he's going to have a big, fundraising advantage going into it. But somebody like Mary can raise a lot of money, and Sullivan is probably a little bit vulnerable to some of the rescission stuff and the Medicaid, and I mean he can get really attacked by Democrats for that, and he can, the rule, he can have to campaign in rural Alaska, and I like Sullivan. Sullivan's cool. I think he's a good senator. My only kind of criticism of him is like he comes to Anchorage once a month, and he talks to the same 200 or 300 people. I mean, he's very kind of, I don't want to say he's an elitist, but he's just, he's not really out there. Like Lisa Murkowski, she'll talk to everybody. She'll be on the plane. She'll shake hands with everybody. She'll go to events. She'll go to the fair. She'll be out there. Sullivan's just not really, he's not really out there. You don't really see him. It's very controlled, petroleum club events or fundraiser events or Republican events. I wish he was out there more because he's a nice guy. He's talked to the guy. But I think if he does get Mary, if Mary does run against him, he's going to really have to pick up the retail politicking because she's good at that. I mean, she's good at talking to folks. She's a nice lady. I think she lacks a little bit in some of the policy stuff and the knowledge. You watched last time with Nick Begich. I mean, all the debates, all the forums, she had to read from notes, which is not great. I mean, if you're doing this thing, you have to be able to talk about these issues and know these issues kind of like the back of your hand. But retail wise, and she's very nice. She's great looking. So that's going to be if she runs against Sullivan, he's going to have to really actually campaign. If he gets some random Democrat person, he's still going to campaign, but it's not going to be as big of a thing. And then we have Nick Begich is up. He's not picked up. The Democrats, not that the Republicans have a big bench. I mean, they have a lot of people running for office, but half of them are kind of totally unknown, and the other ones are like Crooked Crum, and I don't know, just people that aren't really that exciting. Nancy Dahlstrom's nice, but she's not really campaigning much. Democrats have no bench. I mean, they have Mary Peltola. That's it. I mean, who are they gonna? I mean, they have Bill Wielechowski, nice guy, popular guy, smart guy, but I just don't think he has any ambition to run statewide. He's never indicated that. So statewide, Democrats really just have. I mean, they have Forrest Dunbar. I guess he ran against Don Young in 2014, but his wife just said she wanted Trump and Putin's planes to crash. Not sure how that's going to play over with. He's running for statewide office. Yeah, my wife did say she wanted Putin and Trump's planes to crash in Alaska, but she didn't really mean it. People get excited or people get passionate or emotional. That was a dumb thing for her. She posted that on her own Instagram. That was her posting that. It was bizarre. Landmine did a story about it. So there's the governor's race 2026, the Sullivan race 2026, the Nick Begich race 2026. Democrats have a very bad bench in Alaska. Except Mary Peltola. She's their one kind of person they have statewide who's won statewide. She's the first person Democrat to win statewide since I think Mark Begich. Byron Malott kind of in 2014 with Bill Walker, but that was kind of a weird unity, and Bill was independent and Byron was on the ticket. But as far as single person winning Democrat statewide was Mark Begich 2008. So, and then Mary Peltola in 2022. So, and then there's 50 legislative races, 40 state house races, and 10 state senate races. So that's going to be a lot going on. Lot for Landmine to cover here in the next year and change, a few months until the 2026 election in November. There's the general in November and the primary in August. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Again, I want to thank John Quick for being a sponsor of Landmine Live here. He's great. He supports independent journalism, and I really want to thank him. And if you're watching the show and you want to sponsor the show, or if you want to help the Landmine, support the Landmine, go to alaskalandmine.com/subscribe. You can do a one-time or monthly recurring. If you have a business organization, you're running a campaign, we have the website. We sell ads. We have great analytics. We have a lot of viewers on the website. I'm happy to share with you the analytics. We have kind of huge traffic. We're one of the kind of main Alaska political news websites, and we have a lot of content we're putting out there all the time. So if you're trying to reach the political audience or just the general kind of Alaska audience who consumes news, I'd love to show you our rate sheet, and we have an analytics report I can show you. So also, if you want to just support the Landmine, the operation, go to alaskalandmine.com/subscribe. And again, I want to thank John Quick for being a sponsor.